Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Podcast of African Tales, where we dive into the heart of African stories full of emotion, culture, and lessons for us all. I'm Henry, and with me is my amazing wife, Elizabeth.
It's so good to have you with us today. We've got a story that really resonates with some of the complexities of relationships, something that so many of us can relate to in our daily lives. I'm really excited to get into it.
Same here. You're going to love this one. So, Elizabeth, why don't you go ahead and read the story for us? It's called Her Husband's Brother Knows Her Better, a Tale of Neglect. I'll be here, ready to chime in with my thoughts, as always.
Her husband's brother knows her better, a tale of neglect. In the bustling city of Lagos, Nigeria, a woman sat alone in her living room, staring out at the bright city lights twinkling in the distance. She sighed deeply, her heart heavy with emotions that she had kept bottled up for far too long. Her husband, a successful man who worked long hours, was always too busy to notice the loneliness she felt. She had been waiting for years for him to show her the attention and affection that she longed for, but it never came. One evening, as she sat at the dining table, lost in her thoughts, her brother-in-law, her husband's younger brother, walked into the room. He greeted her with a warm smile, something her husband hadn't done in weeks. His presence brought a flicker of light into her dim world. He was attentive. He remembered small details about her likes and dislikes, and for the first time in a long while, she felt seen. He noticed how she liked her coffee, how she preferred the lights dimmed just so, and he paid attention to the small things that mattered most to her. The wife couldn't help but compare the brother's kindness to her husband's indifference. It was not that she didn't love him. She did. But she couldn't deny the deep sense of longing for the affection and care that she had always wished for in their marriage. Her husband, on the other hand, was so caught up in his work that he hardly noticed the distance between them. He had no idea that his neglect was slowly chipping away at the love they once shared. She missed the days when they would talk for hours, when they would laugh together without a care in the world. Now it felt like they were living separate lives under the same roof.
Wow. I mean, just thinking about it, Elizabeth, I can feel the weight of that loneliness she must have been carrying. It's so heartbreaking, right?
Absolutely, Henry. It's really tough. And it's not just about the big romantic gestures. Sometimes it's the little things, right? Like remembering your partner's favorite coffee or asking about their day. That kind of attention makes a huge difference in a relationship.
Yeah. And it's crazy how her husband didn't even realize what was slipping away. It's like he was so wrapped up in his work, and he forgot to invest in the most important part of his life, his marriage.
And the brother-in-law, he wasn't even trying to be her emotional support, but his small gestures were just so much more meaningful because they filled a gap her husband didn't even see. It's like he didn't realize that those little moments of attentiveness could keep the bond strong.
It's funny, Elizabeth. We always say sometimes the people closest to us don't even realize how much they're taking us for granted until someone else comes along and shows us the attention we've been craving.
It's a wake-up call. But what I really love about the story is that it reminds us that both partners need to nurture the relationship. It's not just about one person doing everything. Both have to actively invest in keeping the connection alive. And it's okay to have difficult conversations when things start to feel off.
Exactly. It's like, no matter how much you love someone, if you're not paying attention to their emotional needs, they start feeling invisible. And that's dangerous for any relationship.
Yeah, and that's a big lesson here. Don't take each other for granted. Small gestures matter more than we think. It's not always about grand romantic moments, but about showing up consistently, being present, being attentive, being a good listener.
And it's also about balance, right? Work is important, but so is making sure that your relationship doesn't get left behind. It's all about prioritizing, understanding where the emotional needs lie, and acting on them.
Absolutely. And I think it's something we all can learn from, especially in this busy world where we're all hustling and grinding. Just remember to take a step back and check in with your partner. it could really make a difference.
She's feeling completely invisible, like he doesn't even see her.
That's rough.
And then, to make things even more complicated, there's the brother-in-law.
Oh boy, a brother-in-law. Never a good sign.
But here's the thing. He's not, like, a romantic rival, you know?
Okay, so not a love triangle.
Not exactly.
Yeah.
He's more like a spotlight on what the husband isn't doing.
Interesting. So how does this all play out? Where do we even start unpacking this?
Well, I think one place is to look at the wife's frustration. She's yearning for those, romantic gestures.
Right, the classic candlelit dinners, roses, the whole 9 yards.
Well, not even necessarily that. It's more those small things,
The little things, like...
Just feeling appreciated, seen, like the husband remembers to pick up her favorite, her favorite snack or something.
So it's about those little acts of love, those daily gestures that say, I'm thinking of you.
Exactly. But the husband, he's so caught up in his work in providing, he thinks that's how he shows love.
Classic case of misaligned expectations. And maybe different love languages at play here, too.
Love languages? What do you mean?
Like how we each give and receive love differently. Some people, it's words of affirmation. For others, it's quality time or gifts, acts of service, physical touch.
Oh, right. I've heard of that.
So maybe the wife, she's all about those words of affirmation, needing to hear, I love you, or you're amazing, While the husband, he might be showing love through acts of service, taking care of things, working hard to provide for her.
Makes sense. So he thinks he's doing the right thing,
Yeah.
but she's not feeling it. And that's where the brother-in-law comes in. He seems to, instinctively understand what she needs. Like, he remembers her favorite tea, which, by the way, the husband doesn't even.
That's a powerful detail. Speaks volumes, really. He's attuned to her in a way the husband isn't. But it raises the tricky question, doesn't it? How do we react when we see others getting the attention we crave?
Ooh, good question.
Right. Do we get resentful? Do we start comparing our own relationships and feeling inadequate? Or could it be a wake-up call? Like, hey, maybe I need to be communicating my needs better or appreciating what I do have.
It's like that brother-in-law. He's not the problem. He's just,
A catalyst.
Yes, a catalyst. He's forcing them to confront what's already off-kilter. And let's be real, the husband's workaholic tendencies aren't helping either.
Absolutely. The story makes that link crystal clear. He's drowning in work, and she's drowning in loneliness at home.
And his work, it's almost like this third person in their relationship. Like, it's this constant presence that's sucking away all his time and energy.
Right, and it really makes you think, is it just ambition? Or is there something else going on? Like societal pressure to succeed, fear of failure.
Yeah, all those external forces that can, really mess with the relationship.
Definitely. And often we're not even aware of it. Like the husband in this story, he's probably clueless about the impact his work is having, which brings us to their communication or lack thereof.
Oh, it's painful. They're talking, but they're not really connecting.
It's like they're speaking different languages again.
Yeah, or just talking AT each other, not TO each other. Remember that scene where she's trying to tell him how she feels, and he just throws out these, practical solutions?
Ugh, yeah. It's like he's trying to fix a leaky faucet instead of listening to her emotional needs.
So frustrating.
Mm.
And it shows how good intentions can totally backfire when you're not really listening, not really understanding what your partner needs.
Empathetic listening, that's the key. And it's something we can all struggle with for sure. So, wow, we've covered a lot here. Unmet needs, love languages, the role of external factors, work-life balance, the importance of communication.
It's a lot to unpack, but it's also relatable. It makes you think about your own relationships.
That's the power of a good story, right? It holds up a mirror to our own lives. And for me, what really sticks out is that question, are we really seeing our partners?
Yeah, are we paying attention to their needs, their love languages? Are we making those bids for connection?
And are we communicating openly and honestly, creating a space where both partners feel heard and understood?
It's a challenge, for sure, but it's so worth it.
Well, that's all we have for today's story, folks. We hope you found it as thought-provoking as we did. Relationships take work, but they're so worth it when we put in the effort.
And hey, if you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel. We've got more amazing African tales coming your way. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time on Podcast of African Tales.
See you soon, everyone.